Check one. Can you guys hear me all right? Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I do these every once in a while, but I changed my presentation a little bit today. I kind of over-prepared, so I have a lot to get through, so I'm going to try and cruise, hit on as many points as I can. And essentially what I want to try and do today is take you from the beginning of my journey to where I'm at now and kind of show you all the steps I've taken to get there and hopefully relate to a lot of you in different situations that you're in, so you can kind of see what decisions I made along the way that can, help you get to where you want to get. Like Professor Little, right?
Yes.
Like Professor Little mentioned, I'm a filmmaker. I've been doing video production for about 7-8 years. I'm also a YouTuber. I don't really like calling myself that because I don't identify as one, but we almost have a million subscribers and growing by about 1,000 a day. And so we've been able to see some awesome traction online, working with social media. I'm a course creator. Fulltime Filmmaker is the main course we run, teaching people how to do video production. And like he mentioned, we have 13,000 students in over 100 countries around the world. I'm also a digital marketer, and I'm an entrepreneur. I like building businesses, and I imagine a lot of you have a similar brain to me, and that's why you're probably here. Now, today I want to kind of walk through each age in the past 10 years, what I did, approximately the amount of money I made in those years, so you can kind of see my journey of how I was able to scale my income, what things I did that allowed me to grow that income, and point out that I started in the same shoes as all of you guys, and so if you have aspirations to get to certain levels, knowing that it doesn't matter where you're at, that is totally possible. And along the way of each of those 10 years, I'm going to be pointing out 20 things that I learned that I did in my 20s to become a millionaire by the time I was 30. So starting at age 20, 10 years ago, rewind, I served a mission in Montevideo, Uruguay. And obviously I didn't make any money that year, was serving the Lord for free. And during that time, the first thing that I learned was how to develop faith in God and in myself. And I'm not just pointing this out because we're at BYU and you guys share a lot of the same beliefs that I do. I point it out because this was fundamental to a lot of the things that I do in my job now that I learned on my mission. And I never thought when I was on my mission president told me, your mission will be the foundation for the rest of your life. And I thought, oh yeah, spiritually and raising a family, it'll be a great foundation. But I didn't realize it would have been a foundation for my businesses, for my career path as well. And so for those of you who haven't served missions, I can tell you that the skill sets and the things you learn on your mission will help you even in business. And for those who have gone on missions, apply those things you learned on your mission in your business, because there's a lot of skills, a lot of characteristics you learned that are going to help you. One of my favorite quotes is from Ezra Taft Benson, who said, "Men and women who turn their lives over to God will discover that He can make a lot more out of their lives than they can." And that's something that I learned early on in my life, on my mission and throughout my career, that when I align my will with the Lord's will, He's able to open my eyes to things that I didn't think were possible. He's able to show me my divine potential, things that I'm capable of that I didn't think I was capable of. And as I trust in His hand and follow the promptings that He sends to me, I just realize that I'm able and capable to do a lot more than I ever thought I would. And if you guys know Dave Ramsey, he's an awesome guru about finances. I love one of his quotes. He says, "Pray like it all depends on God, but work like it all depends on you." I got meningitis on my mission. That's me in the hospital there. But another awesome quote I love, I'm going to be quoting from the book Disrupt You by Jay Samit. Highly recommend it if you haven't read that. One of the quotes from the book says, "Hospital workers say the number one regret they hear from dying patients is that they wish they had been courageous enough to live true to themselves and had not been guided by the expectations of others." And that's something that I feel like I've done really well in my life that has helped me succeed, is I don't do whatever society or my friends or the culture in general tells me I'm capable of or what I should do. I'm always trying to figure out what the Lord's will is for me, figure out what my personal talents and gifts are that He's given me, and then trust in the promptings that He gives me. So that's number one, main thing I learned on my mission, and have been able to apply that throughout all my career. Moving on to age 21, my first year back from my mission, I made about 20 grand that first year back. I worked in phone sales selling diabetic sales strips, test strips. So I was doing phone sales, just like you see Michael Scott doing some sales there. I did that part-time while I was going to school at UVU at the time. And this is something that I talk a lot about, which is number 2, choose growth over security. From the second I got home from my mission, I was always looking for job opportunities that would help me grow personally. Coming from that same book, it says, when accepting a job, always ask yourself, how much can I learn and grow in that particular job? A job at a startup, for example, may give you opportunities to try your hands at a wide range of tasks that you couldn't have if you're at a larger company. By testing and pushing your limits at a startup, you may discover personal strengths and skills that you didn't know you possessed, and you also will learn about things that you're not as good at that you need to improve upon. So choose wisely and with a purpose. And when that job no longer offers growth, it's time to move on. And I worked here for probably a year. I developed a lot of sales skills. I learned the inner workings of a business. It wasn't a really small business, but it was still a pretty small business. And that's something I always encourage people to do, even while you guys are coming to school here. I always tell people that coming to school isn't enough. You guys have to get jobs. You have to get work experience. When I'm looking to hire people, I currently have 7 or 8 employees now. And when I'm looking to hire somebody, their education, where they went to school, isn't nearly as important to me as their results, what they can show me they can actually do based on the work they performed in the past. And so I always tell people school is great. There's lots of pros to school, but it's not, to me, it's not complete. You need to be getting work experience. You need to be learning on the job. And so even while you guys are here at school, I highly recommend that you be out being proactive. That's number 3, proactively seek and take opportunities. People ask, is it worth it to get a degree? I say yes and no. I think it needs to be supplemented with work. Internships. I, at one point, at age 22, wanted to be a physical therapist. I was really into nutrition and exercise and all that. And so I went and I just job shadowed one day, a physical therapist. And 2 hours in, I'm like, I would never want to do this. I just would not be fulfilled. But that saved me like 2 or 3 years of schooling to figure that out, because I just went and shadowed for a day. And so be proactive in figuring out what your skill sets are, what you're good at, what you actually love doing. Get lots of job experience along the way while you're going to school, trying to develop skills. Basically, don't spend 4 years at college just going to class. Develop skills outside of class as you're going. So you notice here that my income at age 22 jumped up to 30 grand. That's because I went out and did summer sales. I'm sure plenty of you guys have dabbled in that. I was selling DirecTV door-to-door in Texas. I only lasted about a month. Figured out that it wasn't something that I particularly loved doing, which is the 4th thing that I learned, and that is to find what you love meets what you're actually good at, and then master it. You'll hear a lot of people saying, chase your passion, do what you love. I think that's partially true, but I think that's incomplete as well. I think what I tell people is to find what you love meets what you're actually good at, and then put in a lot of practice to master that skill. So while I was knocking doors in Texas, I came across a quote from Steve Jobs. He said, for the past 33 years, I've looked myself in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. And for about a month straight, I was knocking doors, hating every second of it, dreading waking up, and that's when I knew that I needed to change something in my life. And so a month in, I packed my bags, drove back to Utah, and started searching for something that I actually loved doing. And that's when I came across a guy named Devin Supertramp. Anybody heard of him? He actually came to BYU. He's a YouTuber, filmmaker. I started watching some of his videos online, came across this one he shot in Hawaii, and I was just blown away. It was these beautiful images of Hawaii, vibrant colors, smooth movements, and I watched that video and I said, that's what I want to do. I would love waking up every morning if I got to do that for a living. And so, about a month after I got back from doing summer sales, I bought my first camera setup. Bought a $400 camera, a lens, and a glide cam, about $1,300 total. And I just started teaching myself, watching YouTube videos and learning from trial and error. Spent the rest of that summer trying to learn how to use that camera. And this is, you guys have probably heard the 10,000 hour rule. It's a book called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. He states that exceptional expertise in a skill requires at least 10,000 hours of practice. And if you divide that by 40 hours per week, that means it's going to take you about 5 years to become an expert or a master at a specific skill. Well, that's why you'll see a lot of entrepreneurs hearing about them working 60, 70-hour weeks. It's not because they're psychos, it's because they recognize this. They recognize that in order to get ahead and to quickly build a business and be successful, you got to master those things that you're working on. And if you want to do it quicker, you got to put in more hours. And so for the next 3 years, I would end up putting in about an average of 60 hours a week. And for about 3 years, I put in my 10,000 hours. And as you'll see down the road, those 10,000 hours allowed me to become an expert in my field. In that process, though, guys, of looking for what you love and what you're actually good at, there's a principle I teach called learn to pivot, not quit. Before I got into video, I actually first wanted to do music production. Came home from summer sales and actually bought a guitar and a microphone first because I wanted to produce music. And in the process of producing music, we actually shot some videos as well to make music videos, and I realized that I was a little bit better at the video part than I was at the music part. And so I didn't give up my passions, I just pivoted the passions and realized I probably have a lot better chance of succeeding at this. I have an actual gift and talent for this, whereas I don't have a very good voice, and so it's probably going to be hard to succeed in the music part. And so be willing to pivot. Don't just give up because you're not finding success. Realize that there's a lot of ways to succeed in a lot of different industries, and you don't need to just do the one thing you had originally in mind, but learn how to pivot. So I took my new camera down to SUU. I transferred down there from UVU. And one of the biggest keys to my success, I don't think I'm that much more talented than anybody. I don't think I'm that much more hardworking than anybody, but I am a lot more confident than most people. And I've found that throughout my entire journey that I just am willing to do things that I don't know how to do. I call it fake it till I make it, or essentially be confident in yourself. And I had the opportunity to do that for the first time at SUU. The opening event they had when we got down there in the fall was this fun paint dance with DJ Marcus Wing, and I was having a good time with my friends. And I noticed that nobody was filming the event. And being prepared to take opportunities, I had brought my camera in my car just in case, and I realized no one was filming the event, and so I looked at it as an opportunity to pose myself as the camera guy on campus, right? So I ran back to my car, jumped over the barricade thing, and just acted like I knew what I was doing, like I was the one who was in charge of filming the event. And everyone was stoked, like, oh, the camera guy finally showed up, sweet, come film me. And I went up to the DJ, and I'm like telling him what to do. Yeah, give me just some of that, you know. And so, and when I first jumped over the thing, I was like all nervous, like, and then as the night went on, I was like super confident in myself, like, oh yeah, you know. And so that's one of the keys on this specific incident was one of the keys to me blowing up my career, was just taking an opportunity to do something that I wasn't sure about, that I was unconfident about. But when you guys act in confidence, even when you're not confident, it grows your confidence and it grows you in whatever you're attempting to do. So what happened was I took all that footage, I pulled an all-nighter, putting together an edit, put it on my YouTube channel, and the next day the whole school was passing around the video, super stoked about it, and including the administration saw it, and they pulled me into their office, and they said, we love this. We'll give you a scholarship if you'll film the rest of our events for the rest of the year. And I was like, sure, I'll take a scholarship. And so I went from the kid who knew nothing about video, just barely bought a new camera, to suddenly the director of cinematography at Southern Utah University. And guys, it was just faking it till I made it. And I eventually made it just by slowly faking it until I developed those skills. And it's all about confidence. And you guys are going to have plenty of opportunities that come knocking on your door. And you have to be willing to take them even when you don't feel prepared to take them, because that's how you grow. And by taking it, you gain more confidence for a bigger opportunity that comes that you're also not prepared for. So number 7 is invest in yourself. I talked about that camera gear I bought. You notice that at age 23, my income dipped down to 15 grand. And that's because I was trying to build my own videography business. I wasn't doing phone sales or door-to-door sales anymore. It was better money, but I wanted to take a risk on this new venture of making videos, right? And so instead of making more money, I was actually spending money, investing it on camera gear. But within a few months, it landed me a scholarship It landed me a part-time job with him in the gymnastics team. It landed me local gigs like weddings, music videos, and I was able to pay off that equipment in just a matter of months, which then led me to upgrade and invest in myself even further. And this is a principle that I teach a lot, is you guys have to be willing to invest in yourself, both financially and in time. Put in the time and the money to make your dreams and your ideas come to life. I didn't have enough cash for this second upgrade of equipment, and so I actually went to my dad and said, hey, Dad, I feel like I'm getting pretty good at this, but I don't have the cash to upgrade my gear. Can I borrow $6,000? And being the good dad he is, he told me later on down the road that he didn't think I'd make anything of it. He thought that the business would fail, but he at least believed in me, knowing that I would be confident and work my butt off to make it work if it could. And so he lent me the money, and with that gear, I was able to take my next opportunity, which was finding a mentor. So this is probably one of the biggest keys to my success, is your circle of influence, the people you surround yourself with. The top two things that income professionals accredit their wealth to is relationship skills and social capital, or basically who you know. You guys have heard the phrase that it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's absolutely true. I believe it 100%. I now had some skills. I knew something about video, but I didn't know anybody in the industry. I didn't really know how to get my name out there. And I also love this quote. This is by Peter Voogd. Recommend looking up his podcast. He says that on average, you are the average of the 5 people you hang around most. So if you hang around 5 confident people, you'll eventually become the 6th. If you hang around 5 idiots, you'll probably become the 6th. If you hang around 5 alcoholics, you'll probably become the 6th. If you hang around 5 millionaires, you'll probably become the 6th. And so I was determined to surround myself with other successful people who had taken the career path I wanted to take and had already been successful. I wanted to latch myself to them so that I could shorten my learning curve and learn from their influence. So I was following Devin at the time on his social media, and he posted on Facebook one day saying, look, I just did a shoot in Hawaii, and the guy that I used to do some of the shots didn't work out, and I got to find somebody who has the exact same arms as him, but he's in Hawaii. Is anybody here in Utah have arms that look like this guy? And so I took the opportunity, and I sent him a picture of my arms. And I said, how's that? And he responded back and said, perfect. Can you be in Provo tomorrow? And I was like starstruck that he was even responding to me at this point. Like he was my idol, like the best filmmaker that I aspired to be like someday. And now I was going to have the opportunity to go film on set with him. And so the next day, he marketed up my arms, gave me some nice tattoos, and I basically acted as his arm model for that whole weekend. And while I was helping him on this shoot, I was smart about it, and I did some research beforehand to figure out how can I add value to this guy's life? How can I get in to this circle of influence? And I realized the guy's doing all of his business by himself. He doesn't have an editor. He doesn't have a behind-the-scenes shooter. And so while I was filming with him, I said, hey, man, I noticed you're doing all your edits by yourself. Here's some edits that I've done recently. I'd love to come just for free, shoot some free footage for you behind the scenes, do some free edits for you. And must have struck a chord with him, because the next week he offered to bring me out to a shoot, and that kind of started this new career path working with Devin Supertramp. So I worked with Devin for about 3 years, was able to travel the world with him all over the place, and to me this is like the optimal equation here, is to find what you love meets what you're good at, put in 10,000 hours to master it under the direction of a mentor. And so I kind of had this perfect storm come together in a way that allowed me to really accelerate my ability to grow and develop. And so over those next 3 years with Devin, again, I was working 60, 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks. And so I was able to put in that 10,000 hours. It really allowed me to hone in my skills and get above that learning curve and become one of the top guys in the industry, especially locally, at video production. So I get asked a lot, if you had such a great gig, oh, by the way, let's look at the income levels here. 24, I was making about what an average American would make. My first year with Devin, had kind of a real job, and I had this tough decision to make, to drop out of school and work with Devin, or to finish school and work part-time with him. And I made the tough decision very prayerfully. I always tell you guys to, again, follow the Spirit, follow the promptings. It's not an easy decision to make, to drop out of school. And I was 3 years in, I only had a year left. And so obviously my parents were pushing me, just finish, you'll regret it later. But I felt very strongly that I needed to take this opportunity while it was there and ready for me. And so I said, you know what, I'll come back and finish if this falls apart, but I really feel like I need to take this. Not that I'm advocating you guys drop out, but I am advocating you take opportunities. And sometimes there are going to be tough opportunities that are going to conflict with other opportunities, and you have to, be prayerful about figuring out which ones are the right ones to take. So yeah, I dropped out of school, traveled the world with Devin for a few years, and people ask me, if you had such a great gig, 24 to 25, income was going up a little bit, but they asked me, why did you leave if you had such an awesome gig, was paying you well? And I got to a point with Devin where I wasn't growing anymore. And that's one of my principles, right, is doing things that are going to help you grow versus just make you secure. And I got to a point with Devin where I'd kind of mastered all the skills that he had for me to do within his business. And I wanted to do other things. I wanted to start making educational content. I wanted to start helping him run the business. I wanted to help him do the finances. And he's like, whoa, this is my thing, man, and this is what we're going to be doing, and this is where you fit into that. And if that's not cool, then this isn't going to work. And I just wasn't fulfilled. It was fun, it was cool, but I wasn't growing, and because I wasn't growing, I wasn't fulfilled. And so at age 26, the month I got married, I quit working for Devin. One of the scariest things I've done. Now that I have to actually provide for somebody, I was basically unemployed. But again, I felt very strongly that was the right decision to make. Another fork in the road. Continue working at the secure job, or quit and try and start my own thing. Timing wasn't great getting married, but I felt strongly about it. My wife was super supportive and encouraged me to do it because she wanted me to be happy and fulfilled in whatever I was going to do. So she egged it on, and I said, all right, honey. I said, give me 2 years to work like no one is willing to right now so that we can live like no one can later. And she bought into it. She said, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice a few years of you working 70, 80-hour weeks. We're going to not have quite as much fun as most newly married couples, not going as many vacations and all that, but hopefully it'll pay off and allow us to live a more free life in the future. And that's, I don't really talk about that here, but sacrificing the now for later is another huge principle. So at age 26, I started my own video production company, and the first year of starting that, I did about $150,000 in revenue in my own company. And if you compare that to age 23, the first time I tried to start my own video production company, I made about 15 grand that first year. What do you think the difference was between age 23 and age 26? I was trying to start the exact same business, but the difference was that I'd put in 10,000 hours. I was a lot better at what I'd done. I'd been working under a mentor. I'd built connections. I'd built relationships. I built my circle of influence. And so you can see how important all those principles are in going from where I was at age 23 to age 26, trying to start the exact same business. The problem was, though, that either way, I was still trading time for money. I realized that, okay, yeah, I can make a lot more money, but I'm still only worth so much money. I can only charge so much per video, and I only have so much time per year, which means I have a cap. I can only make so much money because I'm trading time for money. So that's another principle I teach, is to stop trading time for money. Obviously, there's a growing process where you're going to have to trade time for money. And for me, that was 3 or 4 years. And so it's not always just from one day to the next you're going to choose, okay, yeah, I'm not going to trade time. Sometimes you have to develop skills. And it's a great thing to work on somebody else's dime to develop until you get to a point where you can do that. But this business model specifically meant that I was going to be trading time for money. Have any of you guys heard of Cash Flow Quadrant? Highly recommend this book by Robert Kiyosaki. Just talks about the 4 different types of way you can make money. The first one was as an employee. That was me working for Devin. I had a job, and then I quit, became self-employed, and then I owned that job. But both of these on the left side, these are just trading time for money. On the right side here is making money work for you. Becoming a business owner, building a system that works for you, and then eventually investing money once you make it to work for you as well. And so I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I get off this left side of the quadrant and stop trading time for money and build some kind of system that can generate money while I sleep? And this brings me to number 10, and that is to identify problems or needs and then build solutions for those needs. The number one reason why businesses fail is there's no market need. Do not attempt to start a business until you've positively identified a problem in the marketplace. You have to do market research. I see a lot of people, I mentor a lot of people building businesses, and one of the main problems I see is they start building a business without doing any market research beforehand to see if people even want what they're about to make. Don't waste years of your life building something until you know that people actually want it, right? Again, Peter Voogd, awesome quote from him. He says, if you want to make $1 million, no problem. Make 1 million people achieve any of the following. Make them feel better. Help them solve a problem. Educate them. Give them security, housing, safety, health. Make them look better. Make them healthier. Makeup, nutrition, clothing. Raise a positive emotion, love, happiness, laughter, self-confidence. Satisfy an appetite. Make things easier for them. Enhance dreams and give hope. If you can make 1 million people achieve any of those following, then I promise you it'll be worth $1 million. So this is a big part of my process right here was I had to figure out, with the skills I have, what's a problem that exists right now? And I thought back to when I first started doing video. Oh yeah, when I bought my camera gear, I had the hardest time finding tutorials on how to film and how to edit. I had to scour through YouTube for endless weeks and months, and the education was And so I realized that there was a huge gap between free YouTube education and a super expensive film school. There's this huge gap where there's not a lot of good education. And I knew this specifically because I was getting a ton of DMs on Instagram. I'd built up an Instagram following to like 30,000 followers at the time. And I was getting DMs constantly, people saying, how do you color correct? How do you do this? How do you do that? Anytime you guys see a ton of questions floating around about a very specific topic, that's a good indication that there's a problem or a need that needs to be filled. And so I recognized this, and so I posted on my Instagram account. I said, all right, guys, I'm going to build some tutorials. What do you guys want to learn? And I got about 300 questions on that post. And I then organized those questions into 100 pages of organized scripts answering all those questions, organized it chronologically so that anybody who was to take this course or this curriculum I was about to build would know from beginning to end the steps I took to get to where I'm at. I then took that 100-page script, spent the next 6 months filming and editing training videos, which is now Fulltime Filmmaker, the ultimate online film school. And I launched that about 9 months after I'd quit working for Devin. And the week I launched, we did 90 grand in sales. And all of a sudden, my mind was opened. I was like, holy crap, I just made more money in a week than I did in a year, my best year at Devin Supertramp. I realized there's potential here to no longer have to trade time for money. If I can automate this system and figure out how to sell it without me having to personally put in time, then I can obviously scale my income level quite a bit. And so that's what I did. At age 26, so tip number 11 is to aim high, rip the ceiling off of your potential. Right before I launched Fulltime Filmmaker, I was shooting on a project with some buddies, and I met a new guy that I hadn't met before named Sebastian. He was a filmmaker and also a digital marketer, amongst other things. And I was just talking to him on the shoot, and he said something along the lines of, my goal is to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. And I kind of looked at him like, is this dude nuts? He was about the same age as I was, about 26. But I'm like, oh, okay, that's a good goal, man. But in the back of my head, I'm like, you're an idiot. There's no chance in heck that's going to happen. But at the time, I had put a ceiling on him, and I had that same ceiling on myself of what I thought was possible. We kind of grow up in a culture where, from a young age, we're told you can be one of 5 things. You can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be this, you can be that. And here's the amount of money you can make if you choose any of these. And so growing up my entire life, I always thought that 150 grand, that was like my ultimate goal. If I can make 150 grand a year, I'll be set. That'll be awesome, and it is awesome. But no one ever told me that you could do anything more than that. I didn't even know it was even possible. And the fact that people were saying that they wanted to, I thought they were nuts. And then after I saw myself make 90 grand in a week, my mind opened up. That ceiling, I ripped it off and said, I think there is more to this. There's more. I'm capable of more than I originally thought I was. Grant Cardone says the biggest single The single biggest financial mistake I've made was not thinking big enough. I encourage you to go for more than $1 million. There's no shortage of money on this planet, only a shortage of people thinking big enough. So moving on to number 12 is to engage in lifelong learning. The problem was, yeah, I sold 90 grand worth of this course, but I just sold it to my following. I didn't know how to market it out to the world. I knew nothing about online marketing. I knew nothing about paid advertising on social platforms. And this is something that I talk about a lot, is be a lifelong learner. We believe in eternal progression as members of the church. And this is an eternal principle. A lot of these are eternal principles. These are absolute truths that apply to everything we do. Peter Vook says, learn to work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living, but if you work hard on yourself, then you'll make a fortune. And so I invest a lot of time and energy and money into educating myself ongoing. Just because I make great money now and I built successful businesses, I'm constantly learning and developing. And at this stage, I had to learn everything there was to know about marketing, about building sales funnels, about click-through rates, about landing pages. I didn't know any of that. But I spent the next few months learning it, and then I dove into Facebook ads. If any of you have tried Facebook ads, this is like learning a whole new language. Way over my head. Took another 6 to 8 months learning how to do all that. But I was dedicated to learning new skills, developing myself so that I could push my potential beyond what I thought I could. And you see from going from 26 to 27, my income 3-4x'd, because what happened? I went from being an employee and self-employed to building a business, a system, Fulltime Filmmaker, that could work in the background while I slept. I could still shoot videos and trade time for money, and I was, but while I was doing that, I had built something in the meantime that was constantly making money in the background, as I had automated webinars and automated ads that were constantly being pushed out to the world, and I was creating YouTube content that's constantly getting hits and traffic and driving traffic to my sales funnel that's creating sales. All that was going on in the background while I'm making videos over here. And this brings me to our next tip, which is to manage and value your time wisely. I won't go into this too much, but this is something I'm super passionate about. What happened was I built this new business, and I was still kind of working self-employed. I had to realize that one of these was more valuable than the other, and I had to be very careful about where I was putting my time. And it was really hard at first to stop doing video projects and to start putting time into building this new business that was running itself. And so I always tell people, you have to learn how to manage your time if you want to be successful as an entrepreneur, because you're going to have to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of things, and you have to prioritize and figure out what are the most important things on my list today. Make a list every day, what do I have to do? And then prioritize what are the highest value activities, what are the most important things that are going to help me develop and going to help my business grow today. Let's do those first, and then we'll get on to lower value activities later. And eventually, when you start having employees, you can delegate those lower value activities so that you're focusing all of your time just on high value activities. We're kind of low on time, so I'm not going to get too much into this, but eliminate distraction, guys. Learn how to say no. These are all really important things to managing your time, figuring out. You guys learned this on the mission. Eliminating distractions is something you learn on your mission, is you have to figure out how to focus all your time and energy, how to structure your time, use your time wisely to be able to land all your appointments. This is big in anything you do to be successful, is learning how to manage your time. Moving on to age 28, I again doubled my income, and one of the biggest reasons I was able to do that was I started hiring people, one, to take on some of those lower value activities so I could focus on higher value activities, which allowed my business to grow faster, but I also hired people that were more talented than me, and this is something that I firmly believe in. Same thing as surrounding yourself with a strong circle of influence back when you need mentors. Also, as a business owner, you want to surround yourself with people who are going to make you better. Steve Jobs says, it doesn't make sense to hire smart people and tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do. And that's exactly what I've tried to do with my businesses, is hire people that I recognize talents in that I don't have, so they can build parts of my business that I'm capable of building. And my business was able to scale a lot better and a lot quicker because I had that train of thought of hiring really talented people. Moving on, number 15 is to create multiple streams of revenue. At this stage, I was mostly selling my course and doing video projects for clients. And I realized, and you guys will find this when you build businesses, you start seeing new opportunities open up. Like, for example, all my students that I was teaching, once they bought from me, they were asking for recommendations on, okay, what kind of camera should I buy? And I was sending them links, go buy this is what I'd recommend. And I'm like, why am I not monetizing this? And so I became an affiliate at Amazon where I get 4% commission on anything that someone buys through a link I've given them. And so all of a sudden, something that I was doing anyway, all of a sudden I was making 50 grand a year just by sending affiliate links to people who were asking my advice on what they should buy. And then I started realizing, hey, we can actually put sponsors on our YouTube videos. We can, LG, Hyundai, they're reaching out to me. Yeah, we'll if you pay us 20 grand, we'll put a plug about your new car in our YouTube video. AdSense, this is where YouTube puts videos over top of your video, ads over top of your videos before they play. You know, the ones where you skip after 5 seconds. I make about 50 grand a year. This is a little bit outdated, just from those ads that play over top. And so I started realizing all these different ways that I can make money off of things that I'm already doing. I just had to open my eyes and say, hey, I can monetize that. That's something I'm already doing. I just have to push the monetize button. And so this is a big part of, obviously the biggest one here is sell your own product. Most of my income comes from the products I create. The rest of these are mostly promoting other people's products. And the way you're going to make the most amount of money is if you're creating the product yourself, owning the product yourself, and selling your own product versus other people's products. Nothing wrong with selling other people's products. You can be a great retailer, a great middleman, but the real money is going to be in building and creating and selling your own products. Also, we won't get into this here, but stock investments, real estate. I'm actually building and developing a software right now based off of Fulltime Filmmaker. I started getting people asking me questions about, well, how did you build Fulltime Filmmaker? And I'm like, there's a lot of questions about this. And so I built a course on how to build a course. And I have my brother run that one, and I just hired somebody to help me build a software. And so, and the software is being based off of the need that my filmmaking students have of not being able to land clients. And so we're going to build a software that's going to allow them to become discoverable, kind of like a social platform where clients can come and find videographers, and there'll be a subscription model. So I'm constantly looking for ways to create new sources of revenue based on current problems and needs that I see in my industry, and then working hard to create solutions for those problems. Moving on to age 29, my income doubled once again. I guess we're already here at age 29. Tip number 16 I have for you guys is to have a vision and visualize that success. I love this quote from about Jim Carrey. It says, in 1987, a struggling, unknown 25-year-old comedian named Jim Carrey looked up at the Hollywood sign and wrote himself a check for $10 million. A dream turned into a plan, and a dream turns into a plan the moment you assign a deadline to it. Carrey filled in the date on the check as Thanksgiving 1995. He began his disruptor's journey by giving himself a specific timeline to accomplish his goals. Once you have a date, you can work backwards in your mind, listing the steps needed to achieve your goals. Amazingly, Carrey made his goal happen a year ahead of schedule in 1994 for his starring role as Lloyd Christmas in Dumb and Dumber. He was paid $10 million. Having a vision is crucial to know where you even want to go. And this is something I learned and developed actually before my mission. Anyone read the book or seen the movie The Secret? It's basically a secular view on faith. But I played 1 year of football in high school, my senior year, and didn't really know much about it, but I learned a few plays. And my first game our senior year, I was in the locker room, not very confident about going into my first high school football game. And I just remember visualizing. I knew 3 plays. And I visualized each of those plays, all the movements I had to make, and I visualized myself scoring on all 3 of those plays. And I said, I'm going to score 3 touchdowns this game. That's my vision, that's my goal. And I visualized it happening in my head, and that first game, I scored 3 touchdowns on those 3 exact plays. And it doesn't always happen like that, but the point is, it's a lot more likely to happen if you attract those thoughts and that positivity and that confidence into yourself, and you've played it out in your head. You know how it is going to play out. It's just a matter of you actualizing and putting into play what you had in your mind. Same thing happened with my wife. I met her in high school. The day I met her, I told myself, I want to marry that girl. And then I went on a mission, came back, we dated for a little bit, then she denied me, dated other guys for a while, and then she went on a mission, we wrote a little bit, she came back. 7 years later, we eventually got married. It was a long process, but I had a vision. I visualized being with her someday, whether it was her or somebody like her. I knew the goal, what I wanted. And eventually, after dating a lot of other girls and almost getting married to other girls, I ended up with that original vision of being with my beautiful wife. And I know that only happened because I had a strong vision of what I wanted and I was willing to work towards that goal. My vision right now in life is financial freedom. That's what all I'm working towards right now. This is why I'm working so hard in my 20s. This is why I sacrificed those first few years of marriage, is because I want to reach a point where I don't have to work. I'm always going to work because I love to work. I'm a workaholic. But I don't want to have to. I want to be able to put my time where I want to. I want to be able to go to my kids' soccer games when I want to and not be tied to a job because I have to make income to support them. And so times are going to get rough where you're going to be making a lot of money. I was making $2 million at this point. And when you're making 100, 200 grand a month, it's kind of hard to want to get up and keep working because you're like, I don't need more money. So what's going to drive you to keep going to work? A vision. Money's only going to motivate you so far. If you don't have a strong why are you going to work every day? Why do you want money? If you don't have a strong why behind it, then when the going gets rough or when it gets too easy and you're like, I have plenty of money, you're just not going to want to do anything. You're going to get lazy, you're going to get complacent, you're going to sit on your hands. And so you got to have a strong why, have a strong vision. On top of having a strong vision, you have to set goals and then quantify your progress towards that vision along the way. This is actually in Preach My Gospel, but it's Pearson's law that states when performance is measured and performance improves, when performance is measured and reported back, the rate of improvement accelerates. Think of it as Google Maps. If you type in San Diego, but you don't type in your current location, Google Maps is like, don't know what to tell you, man. You have a great vision, but I have no idea where you're at. Can't give you any plans, can't give you anything to do. And so setting your location is like quantifying your progress, figuring out, okay, let's measure my performance, where am I at today? How much money does my business make right now? What are some goals that I can do to get to my vision that's over here? So it's a combination of having a vision, knowing where you're at by regularly measuring where you're at, and then setting goals every week, every month, every year to grow closer to your vision, your goals. If you look here, this is the first 2 years of my full-time filmmaker business, and then you see that arrow right there, that shows you my business shot up like crazy. What made my business go crazy like that and basically double overnight? Weekly reporting. We finally started accounting for where we're at. What did we do this week that was good? What did we do this week that was bad? What can we do to improve that next week? And just simply reporting back and keeping ourselves accountable to growth, things shot up. We realized a ton of things that we were doing terribly, a ton of things we can focus on that are going well, and that just going back to managing your time, it put our time hyper-focused on things that were actually valuable to us. Moving on to 18, change your mindset about money. There's a general thing floating around a lot in society that money is the root of all evil. The love of money is the root of all evil. Money itself is pretty neutral. You can do good and bad things with it, but you have to get that thing out of your mind that some people might tell you that if you want to make money, that's an evil ambition. That is not an evil ambition. What I tell people is this quote by Dallin H. Oaks, I love it. It says, the Good Samaritan used the same coinage to serve his fellow man that Judas used to betray the master. But in Jacob 2:18-9, it says, before you seek riches, seek the kingdom of God, and after you've obtained a hope in Christ, you shall obtain riches, if you seek them. And you will seek them for the intent to do good, to clothe the naked, to feed the hungry, to liberate the captive. This is all about having an eternal perspective, and this is why it's so important to stay grounded in your faith, is because as you make money, it's going to be really easy to slip into the traps that a lot of people do, that money can do to you, if you don't keep that eternal perspective and keep money in its place. And so you don't want money to be evil, and I don't want it because you can do a lot of good with it, but you also need to keep it in check and keep it underneath you and keep God above it. Sad fact, about 95% of people in this country do not achieve financial independence by age 65, but rather they end up dependent on the government or charity or their families, or they have to keep working until the day they die. Don't be part of that 95%. Guys, self-reliance is a gospel principle. Everybody has the opportunity to work towards that self-independence, but you got to change your mindset about money, that it's not evil. You do need it to some degree, and it's really only to a certain degree. Can money buy happiness? The idea that money can't buy happiness has been disproved by science, at least up to a point. Experts say that happiness does increase with wealth, but the correlation peaks at around $75,000 a year. So I tell people, my advice when you start making a lot of money is I try personally to live within $75,000 a year, because I recognize, and I've tested out, that when you spend more than that on yourself, it doesn't actually make you any happier. Once your bills are paid for, once your basic needs are met, there's really no need for more money than that in order to make you happier. And so my advice would be to live off of, what is enough to get you by, and then put the rest of your money into charity, savings, investments, real estate, business ideas, employees, etc. Last tip I want to give, just have a couple minutes left and we'll close up. Manage your life wisely, stay balanced. I get asked a lot, how do you manage time between work and family? I'm not perfect at it. I'm not perfect at any of these. These are all principles I believe in, but I fail at all of them at times. But I know them, I know I should do them, and I work towards them. And this is one that I work towards that I'm not always perfect at. But staying balanced, I have 5 quick tips for you. Like I mentioned, lower your cost of living. Live on less than you make. Stay out of debt, because if you live on less, then you'll need to work less to make that much money. And if you have to work less, then you'll have more time to spend with your family. And so that's something that I try and do, is I feel the pressure sometimes where I'm like, oh, well, if I get a new car, and then we have that, and if we get a huge house, then we have a mortgage that's going to be $5,000 a month, and then I have to double the amount of money I make, so I got to work longer, I got to spend. So live within your means, live less than you make, lower your cost of living if you feel like you're starting to get out of hand, always wanting to make more and more beyond what you need. Number 2, have a schedule. Separate time from family and time with work. Be 100% there when you're there. 6 o'clock, my wife and I made an agreement. You'll be at work 100% when you're there. At 6 o'clock, you turn it all off. You're home. You're 100% with the family. And I used to work from home, and that was a huge challenge. I work in an office now, and being able to separate that is a huge deal in keeping both of those healthy. Physical exercise, proper nutrition. It's going to give you a healthier body, which is going to lead to more energy, to allow you to have more productive, better time spent in work and at home. Make time for spiritual development. Again, keeps your perspective healthy, which is going to keep you closer to the Spirit, which is going to allow you to make better decisions with your time and your money. And then last one, take Sundays off, guys. This is something I didn't do for a long time, but science actually backs this, the day of rest thing. It says it restores mental energy, restores creativity, reduces stress, reduces inflammation, boosts the immune system, improves short-term memory, keeps you more focused when you do work, more productive when you do work, and I found that I can now get more done in 6 days when I have 1 day of rest than I could when I was working all 7 days. So these are gospel principles, but I promise they work and they apply even to your work and your career. But that's the 20 things I did in my 20s to become a millionaire by 30. And those are the 20 years of my life and the progression I made financially and the decisions I made and the jobs I took and the opportunities I took along the way. But that's it. Thanks, guys. Thank you.